Hey guys, today we're just going to do an install of a Tow-Pro and an Anderson on this N80 Hilux. So let's get into it. Today we're going to be installing a Tow-Pro and an Anderson in this vehicle. So this is just for your basic like caravan towing setup. I've already sleeved some cables beforehand, so I've just got some 6BNS cable that will handle pretty much all charges we put in the vehicles. I've got my power cable for my Tow-Pro, so that's just some 6mm cable to the Tow-Pro. And then this is our trigger cable, which goes all the way to our trailer plug. That's just some 4mm twin, and that goes from the Tow-Pro all the way to the trailer plug. And then obviously we've got our SBI, so that's just going to isolate our Anderson whilst we're when the vehicle's off. And the Tow-Pro unit itself would usually just go for the Redarc one, and just got some various lengths of heat shrink and our Anderson and fuse holder and all that. So our first step here is going to be mounting all of our things. So I'm going to mount our fuse holder on the battery. I'm going to mount our SBI just down in this section here, as this customer stated they're getting a dual battery system later. So you do have a lot of room here. You can put the Anderson, but today I'm just going to put it down there. And then run the cables where they need to be, through the firewall and underneath the vehicle. So right here we have our SBI that we're using for our Anderson. So if you have a smart alternator, you will be using your ignition trigger, which is this blue cable, to trigger it. So you would need to tap into a factory fuse box and find an ignition trigger for that. Whereas on this Hilux, it has a non-smart alternator, so we can just use the standard Redarc smarts on it. So we'll be wiring our positive cable from here to our fuse holder, and then that goes to battery positive. This other side of the SBI, where there isn't any smarts, that will be going directly from here to our Anderson. You'll also be connecting your chassis ground just to the bottom of the isolator, as long as it's mounted to a solid earth. So now we've just mounted the SBI just down here next to the battery tray. Had to remove the battery for that to get the drill in there. And I've also mounted our twin MIDI fuse holder onto our battery bracket. So I've just riveted that into there and used rivets to mount it to the actual plate. So once you've installed your battery, you can connect your chassis ground for your Anderson. So that can go one of two places, either to a factory chassis ground anywhere on the body, or you can go directly to your battery negative if you don't have a smart alternator. I've just finished our final connections, so I've terminated both the Tow-Pro and the rear Anderson into our twin MIDI holder. I've run the cable to power the twin MIDI from twin MIDI to our positive terminal, and I've also sent the cable through into the cab, so it's all ready for us to start wiring up the Tow-Pro in the cab, which I think we'll move on to next. So I'm just going to go through our Tow-Pro as well on how to wire this into your vehicle. So your switch is pretty simple. That's just got a plug on either end. One plugs into your switch like so, and then the other end just plugs directly into your Tow-Pro, and then you wire that through to wherever you're going to mount your switch. On this side, these are all your inputs and outputs. So you have your positive for your Tow-Pro, which is your black cable. You have your white cable, which is your negative for your Tow-Pro, so you can wire that into a chassis ground anywhere. Then you've got your blue cable, which is your output from your Tow-Pro, so that will be your power to your trailer brakes. So that we wire into our black cable on our 2-core. And then we have our red cable, which is our brake trigger. So you wire that into your red cable on your 2-core, which just gets a brake light feed. So I'm just going to mount our Tow-Pro up underneath the dash. You've got to mount it to a nice solid surface, so no just zip tying it to wiring harnesses, as they have a gyro on the inside to sense when you're moving. So yeah, I'll try and mount it to a hard surface where I can bolt it onto. Then we'll be mounting our controller just here. Usually I would mount it on the right side, but he's got all of his switch spots full, so we'll be doing it in the center. And once we've got that mounted and wired up to the power, we'll solder on our trailer cable, and we'll send that down underneath the cab and run it to the back with the Anderson cable. So we're all done with our install in the cab. Just got to put the panels back on. We've installed our controller here for the trailer brakes. Then the module itself, I've mounted it to the wall just inside this panel here. And then our trigger cables for the trailer plug, just going down and out through a grommet just in the floor here. So the rest of the job is now just underneath the car and to the trailer plug. So right here we've just got a demonstration of a trailer plug and how we would be wiring the Tow-Pro into this trailer plug. So there's a few different ways you can do it. Some vehicles have a harness already there that you can tap into. They've typically got a plug on the end that is either just one cable, which will be your trailer brakes, or it will have two cables, which is your trailer brakes and your brake light signal. With this, we're just going to explain how you would tap into the trailer plug. So first of all, I would remove your blue cable, which is your output from your Tow-Pro, and put our black cable into there. And then the red cable in our 2-core, we would just either try and fit it in the same port as this red cable, or you may have to splice into the cable and solder onto it if you can't fit it in the port. If you do have a Ranger or Everest, you would need the Redarc specific harness for those, as they can cause issues if you do it this way. So right here we have the bracket that we'll be using for our Anderson. You can buy this in our store. Basically it mounts perfectly with these Anderson covers that we supply. So first of all, you'll be mounting your Anderson plug inside of this housing. Just slides in there like so. It's got some slots just so that you don't get it around the wrong way. And then after that, we'll be mounting that to the 4 holes on this bracket. And then these other 2 holes here are for the trailer plug to mount onto. So whether you mount it that way or that way is dependent on the vehicle you have. So we're just going to install our Anderson just here and install our Tow-Pro into the trailer plug. So we're going to run our cables along underneath the vehicle, making sure to avoid any moving components, aircon lines, and it's always best to follow the factory harness if you can. So here we have the Anderson all done. I've just soldered the pins, and then with the trailer plug I've connected up to it, up nice and tight to the harness up the top, just to keep it looking nice and factory. And yeah, that's it, all nice and done. So we've just got these little testing tools that we use once we've completed a job, make sure everything's working. So when I turn on the car, we should see this light turn on. And then when I use the Tow-Pro, we'll see this light dim and brighten as I adjust it or hit the brakes. And we can also use this to test any other brake lights that we might be doing, like indicators or reverse, anything like that. But today we're just doing the Tow-Pro, so we'll test those. That's everything done on this vehicle. Basically, we've gone through everything from the engine bay to the cab to the rear. That's basically the whole install of a Tow-Pro and an Anderson. Make sure you like and subscribe. See you next time. We'll be doing more of this stuff in the future.